Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Partha. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Kshetradnya Vibhag Yoga, 13th adhyāya, and Sri Krishna has beautifully told us about certain very important and prominent traits of this Kshetra, of this field, of this body, which one must possess in order to qualify, to make eligible for gaining that ultimate knowledge, the highest truth, getting to know the ultimate reality, and finally the illumination and enlightenment. Right from the 7th Shloka, Sri Krishna has told, he told us earlier what is this body comprised of, and then from 7th Shloka onwards, he has asked us to get all those desirable traits, desirable attributes, like humility and the humbleness, and the forgiveness, all that, amanitvam, adamvitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjava, all that he has told us from the 7th Shloka onwards till our last reading of the 10th Shloka that we read. That finally, having got all these traits, having got all these desirable features in this body, in this field, then you just surrender yourself to me. Then Sri Krishna had said that you just divide all your attention onto me, all your the focus on me, without any second thought in your mind. Thought only of me. That should be the ultimate quality that you should build up. That mai cha ananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini. Mai cha ananya yogena. Get dedicated to me. Dive deep into this yoga of me with the feeling of non-separation. Don't feel you and me are separate. Don't feel we are two different entities. And with this Ananya Yoga, just dive deep into that mood of meditation on me. And Bhakti Avyabhicharini, not the devotion, not jumping from one point to another, a single pointed devotion. A single pointed, single focused devotion to my lotus feet. You develop that habit. And Vivikta Desha Aratihi Jana Samsati. Vivikta Deshe. You get into the habit of getting into seclusion once in a while. Get into an isolated place. Just you and me. Just you and that serene surrounding around you. that you get automatically, you get that mood, you get that environment of contemplating on me with ananya bhakti, with the bhakti avyabhicharini, not jumping from one point to another. So get into that place of seclusion once in a while, and aratihi jana samsadi. Then you will get into that stage. Then you will enter that phase where you start disliking the company of people. You start disliking the maddening crowd, and you are not interested in any of that loose talk, any of those rumor mongering, any of that useless talk. You need only me then. Then you don't need any other company. Then you forget WhatsApp, you forget Facebook, you forget Instagram. In today's parlance, you become sort of antisocial for that matter. You get away from all that maddening crowd. And this is what also Krishna wants us to build up as one of the traits. He says it automatically comes. Once we start imbibing all those qualities mentioned from 7th shloka of humility, of humbleness, of forgiveness, and all those non-egoistic sense, anahankara. So all these things, they start taking us forward on this path, and a stage comes when we start focusing, we start developing unswerving devotion to the Lord. We start developing such a fixed focus on the lotus feet of the Lord that we feel like getting into secluded places where nobody is there to disturb us. We start getting a distaste for company of people, society of men, and we then feel our only desire is to be one with the Lord. And these all the steps that Sri Krishna has told us from 7th verse till the 10th, they are all the prerequisites to start gaining the knowledge, to start getting the knowledge of who is the Kshetradnya. And Sri Krishna says, towards the end of accumulating these positive traits, these spiritual traits, Sri Krishna in the 11th shloka also is going to further tell us about some more traits which are going to take us forward, and then Sri Krishna is going to tell us exactly on whom to focus, whose knowledge should we get. So Sri Krishna in the 11th shloka here is telling us, adhyātmajñānanityatvaṃ tattvajñānārthadarśanam etajjñānamiti proktamajñānaṃ yadato'nyathā. Sri Krishna says that having build up these qualities, these traits on your spiritual journey, then you should get into the habit of adhyātmajñānanityatvaṃ, constancy of spiritual knowledge, constancy of the self-knowledge, constant learning, learn, adhyātmajñānanityatvaṃ, and that is not once in a while. I will read something today about adhyātma. What is adhyātma? Adhyātma, the most important self. Who is the most important self? The indweller. The body is not the self. The indweller is the self. And the knowledge of that indweller, adhyātmajñāna, that is adhyātma. So that knowledge, constantly practicing, will take you forward again. Having built up all these qualities of humbleness and humility, of tyaga, of non-egoless, of no me and mine, of considering that my children, my spouse, my house, all the so-called possessions of mine, they are not my possessions at all. Having built up all these qualities and thinking, then start thinking about the inner self, adhyātma, and constantly. Not once in a while. Today I read, today I think about my inner self, and tomorrow I again jump into that well of worldly enjoyments. That doesn't happen. Then it has to be nityam. It has to be constantly practiced, that adhyātma. And tattvajñānārthadarśanam. That understanding of the artha of tattvajñāna. That understanding of perception of the end of the knowledge of truth, tattvajñāna, artha, the end of that knowledge of truth, understanding that, perceiving that, that is the way to start proceeding on this path. And then after these two things of adhyātmajñānanityatvaṃ and tattvajñānārthadarśanam, having perceived, having understood the end of the knowledge of truth, then etajjñānamiti proktam. This is what is called as jnana, the real knowledge. Etajjñānamiti proktam. This is called as the true knowledge, the knowledge of self and the tattvajñānārthadarśanam. The realization of the end of the true knowledge, the realization of culmination of this entire knowledge of truth. These two are considered to be the real knowledge. Etajjñānam, this is declared to be knowledge. And any other knowledge, ajñānam yadato'nyathā, whichever is not in the gambit of these two, whichever is away from the adhyātma and away from tattvajñānārthadarśanam, is ajñāna. As simple as that. Any knowledge for that matter. We read all these secular subjects for that matter. All this knowledge we get to earn our degrees, to earn our livelihood. This knowledge is helpful to that extent. That knowledge that we study in school, college, universities, that is okay to get us diplomas and degrees and certificates and also jobs and also livelihood. But that knowledge is not going to take us forward anymore. The real knowledge, Sri Krishna says, is this adhyātma. And constancy in that study, constancy in getting that knowledge of the inner self, of the true self. And tattvajñānārthadarśanam, and the realization, the perception of the culmination of this true knowledge. That is the real knowledge, Sri Krishna says. All other knowledges, all other subjects, all other studies for that matter, they are in a way ignorance. They don't enlighten us. They don't illumine us to know what is our real nature. So this is what Sri Krishna has told us in this 11th shloka. This is where the prerequisites of the Kshetra, the qualities that Sri Krishna wants us to build, they end here in this 11th, from 7th shloka till 11th shloka. So see, Sri Krishna has clearly given us a path to work upon, how we should make ourselves ready to reach that stage that Sri Krishna wants us to reach. Sri Krishna wants us to get free from this cycle of birth and death. That is the ultimate stage. And if we follow the advice, if we follow the teachings of Sri Krishna from 7th shloka of the 13th adhyāya till the 11th shloka of this 13th adhyāya, that is going to make us eligible, that is going to make us competent, that is going to make us capable devotees who can take a plunge into the ocean of immortality. Now, all the dispositions elaborated from 7th stanza up to this, they contribute jointly to the development of wisdom, the divine eye, and the intuitive faculty leading to the realization of Brahman. All this put together, they make us capable. They make us eligible to reach that stage where we can, where our divine eye opens, where we get that divine sight, like Sri Krishna gave that divine sight, Divya Chakshu, to Arjuna when he wanted to show him his Vishwarupa. All these things, they are not possible with this physical body as such. The entry into the spiritual realm, it needs something much more than these weakling senses, for that matter. These 5 senses that we have, 5 senses of perception and 5 organs, sense organs, they don't help us on the spiritual journey at all. They are only sufficient to make us survive in this world to a limited extent. But if we have to enter into that sphere, into that arena of the adhyātmajñānam, then that divine sight should be opened. Then we should have that divine eye. Then that can only happen when we build up on these attributes that Sri Krishna wants us to build in this Kshetra, in this field, in this body, and which he has very clearly elaborated. So these dispositions are called jnana. Whatever he has told, be humble, have complete total humility, be free from ego, be free from I and mine. All these things, these dispositions, they take us towards the jnana because of their great and unfailing contribution to getting the ultimate knowledge. We cannot get knowledge if we have the ahankara. We cannot get the knowledge if we don't get that quality of being humble. If we don't develop that humility. If we don't understand the real fact that my family, my friends, all these that I call them as me and mine, they are actually not mine. They are Lord's. So all these attributes, all these dispositions, they take us towards that ultimate state of getting the jnana. Dispositions counter to them that Sri Krishna has told us from 7th till 11th shloka, which are not in line with what Sri Krishna wants us to be, like vanity, self-esteem, injuring others, revengefulness, crookedness. All these qualities, they pull us down. They pull us down into this mighty world of Maya, identification of self with son, wife, spouse, home and the like, and restlessness due to occurrence of desirable and undesirable, lack of devotion to the Maker. All these dispositions, all these uncalled for attributes, they do not take us towards wisdom. They do not take us towards self-knowledge. In fact, they keep on pulling us down every time we seek knowledge. So Sri Krishna says, get rid of all those negative tendencies. Get rid of all those tendencies, the attributes which generate from ignorance. Get rid of them. Be pure. Be simple-hearted. Be humble. And realize you are a child of the Lord. With that, you can gain the self-knowledge. Now, this is the preparation that we have to do in order to move forward on this path of knowing who is the Kshetradnya. This is what Sri Krishna wants us. And at a typical on this particular teaching of Sri Krishna, Sri Ramakrishna has also given a very wonderful teaching, a beautiful teaching it is. Sri Ramakrishna says, how is it that we are not able to contact Ishvara who is all pervading? Sri Ramakrishna asked this question, that how is it we are not possible to contact Ishvara? Ishvara is very much in front of us. Ishvara is very much with us, but we are not able to contact him. We are not able to see him. Why is it? It is because of all these counter attributes which are not required in us, that have become so strong in our personality, that have become so strong in our character, that we are not able to contact the Ishvara. Sri Ramakrishna says, standing by the side of a pond covered with moss and reeds, one feels inclined to think that there is no water in it. A very dirty pond. The surface is full of moss and covered with the reed. When we look at that pond, we feel as if there is no water inside. All that green moss, all those pieces of tree branches and all, they have got stuck in that moss. We feel there is no water underneath. But then Sri Ramakrishna says, but the moss has to be pushed aside. You take out that dross, you take out that dirt, you take it aside, that moss, and then you will see the water. Similarly, Maya with her concealing power has to be brushed aside from our mind before we are blessed with a vision of the all-pervading Ishvara. And what is unwanted? Not being humble, highly egoistic, that attitude of possessiveness of me and mine, my spouse, my children, my house, my property. This is all that dross. This is all that moss and the reed which is covering the water inside. So we have to remove it. We have to get into the new version of ours. We have to transform ourselves to become humble. Gain that humility. Remove that I-ness. Remove that ego. Remove that wretchedness. Remove that possessiveness of me and mine. And then this moss, this reed, this dirt, this dross, it gets removed. And as Sri Ramakrishna says, once that is removed, we clearly see the water in that lake. Then we get the perception, we get that divine vision, we get that divine eye to know who is the Ishvara, to see and be one with the Ishvara. So for that, we must prepare ourselves. And till this 11th shloka, Sri Krishna has told us. Now here he clearly told us, study adhyātma constantly and tattvajñānārthadarśanam. Get to know the end of what this all the intuitive faculty is about. Get to know, perceive, realize the end of the real truth of this knowledge. And this in fact is the true knowledge, or everything else is ajnana, is ignorance. Etajjñānamiti proktamajñānaṃ yadato'nyathā. Whatever is not knowledge is ignorance, as simple as that. So that is our reading of the 11th shloka of the 13th adhyāya, the Kshetradnya Vibhag Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swami.